let's talk about how to really play Iggy and Scorch. Because this hero is one of those unique cases where positioning and turret placement literally define your effectiveness. Iggy's flame turrets are essentially mini Iggy's on the battlefield. Each one is dealing consistent damage, controlling space, and forcing the enemy to respect his zones. If you space them out properly, you can create what I like to call a no-go zone, an area of the map the enemy simply can't walk into without paying a serious price. And honestly, that's something only Iggy can really do in Predecessor. Now, when it comes to building him, there are usually two routes. One, you can focus on enhancing Iggy himself as a spell-casting mage, boosting his Molotov, Inferno, and oil spill damage, while the turrets act as strong supporting assets. Or two, you can enhance the turrets almost exclusively, sometimes even picking up extra health late game to give them time to output maximum damage. Both strategies work. It really comes down to your playstyle and the matchup you're facing. But here's the main key to success, and this is something I'm still learning myself: don't overextend. Engage only when you're within your turret safe space. Step outside those zones, and suddenly Iggy isn't the threat you think he is. He's squishy. His damage is lower without the turrets, and he's vulnerable to ganks or burst. The turrets aren't just damage tools, they're his safety net, his zoning control, and often the thing that lets him win trades he otherwise shouldn't. So when you're playing Iggy, always think of the battlefield like a chessboard. Every turret is a piece, and where you place them matters more than the raw stats on your hero. Position well, stagger them, and let them punish the enemy while you poke safely from the backline. Over time, learning that spacing and timing is what separates a decent Iggy player from someone who really controls the mid lane.
For most mages, your starting item is a pretty straightforward question of power or power with something else that improves damage. But with Iggy, because so much of his strength is tied to his turrets and that chip damage they provide over time, the item you start with can really shape the pace of your lane. The clear favorite here is Megacosm. Statistically, it's got one of the best win rates across gold rank players, and when you look at the numbers, it makes perfect sense. You're getting 60 magical power, 300 mana, and 10 ability haste right out of the gate. So you've got damage, resources to keep turrets and abilities online, and cooldown to cycle your kit more often. But what really pushes it over the top are the passives. Megacosm deals damage over time based on a target's max health, and then tacks on extra damage against bonus health for heroes. For Iggy, that's perfect. Every turret shot, every Molotov tick, every poke with his oil spill has a chance to apply that burn. It turns his whole kit into a war of attrition, where enemies who think they can shrug off turret fire suddenly find their health bars melting as the fight drags on. Against tanks especially, this item gives Iggy teeth he just doesn't have without it. Now, Entropy is the other strong option to consider. It gives you slightly more power, 400 mana, and a higher 15 ability haste, which feels really nice in terms of early casting. Its passive, Degradation, just straight up adds extra damage every time your abilities connect, scaling off your own magical power. That means as you build more damage, every turret hit and every spell you land gets that much more punishing. The nice part is, it's instant. Unlike Megacosm, which wants extended fights to really tick, Entropy pays off as soon as you connect. That can be devastating in lane against a squishier mid laner because it makes your trades sharper and more threatening right from the start. The trade-off is that against tankier comps, it doesn't punch through health bars as well as Megacosm's percentage damage. But in games where the enemy draft is light on tanks, starting with Entropy can give you a really strong foothold in lane. Then there's Orb of Growth. On paper, it looks appealing. 65 power, plus health and mana for a bit of sustain, and a passive that eventually evolves the item as you farm experience. You even get a little healing whenever you cast abilities, which helps you stay in lane longer. But here's the catch. While it does give you some breathing room, it doesn't really amplify Iggy's strengths the way Megacosm or Entropy do. His entire identity is tied to pressure, to creating these little no-go zones around his turrets. Orb of Growth delays that payoff. It keeps you alive, sure, but it doesn't punish enemies as much for walking into your space. You end up surviving, but not necessarily controlling the lane in the same way. So when you line them all up, Megacosm is the go-to first item for Iggy. It fits his damage over time identity perfectly, scales into tankier matchups, and gives you the stats you actually want for managing lane tempo.
Entropy is a really strong alternative when you're facing softer enemies and you want that immediate damage payoff. And Orb of Growth is there if you absolutely need extra durability and sustain. But if you want to play to Iggy's strengths, turrets ticking away while Megacosm chips down health bars, this item is hands down the best way to start.